Hey there, and welcome back to the Hub of Junior Golf Podcast. I am Ryan Burr, joined as always by the founder of the Junior Golf Hub, Roger Nick. And Roger, I'll tell you, the hits just keep coming out there on professional golf. It seems like even with the training camps opening in the NFL, usually that swallows up pretty much all the sports world, but not the case. The PGA Tour, LPGA Tour, Korn Ferry Tour, all the way down to amateur golf continue to headline the news. Some bombshells in Congress on the floor have been dropped about, potentially hundreds of millions of dollars missing at the PGA Tour. Certainly penalties on the LPGA Tour, a major championship. Where do you want to start? I mean, golf is we need to go 7 days with the Hub of Junior Golf, Roger.
Easily 7, maybe 8 days a week, right? I mean, it sounds that way with everything that's going on. I tell you, the bombshell that's going off in Congress right now, or with the PGA Tour, it's literally like one of these things. It's like it can't be true. Like, and it's riveting in the sense of, if you're a golf fan, if you're a sports fan, you start to wonder what's going on. Why did Jay Monahan take the time off? Was there some kind of cover up? I don't want to go there, but it makes you think, right? It really makes you think of what's really going on here.
Well, and it just adds to what is the future going to be. I think that, I get stopped in the street. What's going to happen? Are all the live guys going to come back on the PGA Tour and everything go back to the way it is? Is the live tour going to end up being the most powerful tour, and the guys from the PGA Tour are going to be able to go over there and play for $60 million? I think that it's amazing that in the month of May is when the bombshell dropped of a potential merger. Mm-hmm. And here we are now in August, Roger. And I'm not sure it has advanced at all since the day the news broke. Like, do we know anything more today about what golf is going to look like?
Yeah, I think we're still in the dark. I think there's going to be another bombshell that's going to drop. Obviously, in August, there's got to be some kind of submittal of schedule that's going to happen next year. Obviously, with everything starting with Q School coming up in September, what's on the line here going forward? What's on the line for the Korn Ferry guys? What are they playing for? Do they jump ship and go to live golf? I think there's a lot of things that, to your point, who knows where it's going to go. But I tell you, it seems like it might be the wild, wild west here pretty soon for the dollars that are going to be involved here.
And if the tour's ultimate objective was to avoid litigation and avoid a lawsuit so that nothing would come out, and then it ends up happening anyways, you talk about that is like the absolute worst case scenario.
Yeah, oh, no doubt. I mean, think about the players right now sitting there going, I turned down these millions of dollars that could have come my way. And now we're just kind of sweeping it on the rug and nothing's going to happen. Where's my payout, and where's this money at? So I think there's going to be still some things to happen with the PGA Tour before this thing moves forward in a good way. With that being said, though, Ryan, I think, again, back to being in golf right now is exciting. I think being a junior golf is exciting because of all the opportunities that this new money coming into at the upper levels, how it's going to trickle down to the colleges, how NIL has been, I think it's going to go on the up or the rise, if you will, the more opportunities out there for these young men and women who are playing. And I think, that's going to be a big part of a decision going forward.
And what really is interesting, 2 facts about junior golf into college golf, is college golf forever was a non-revenue sport. Even though golf, as we all know, it's on national television Saturday, Sunday on the networks more than any other sport, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, there's more professional golf on the 4 networks than there is NFL, MLB, NHL, obviously NBA. I mean, it's pretty much year-round on Saturday and Sunday. The PGA Tour is on network television. Yet, college golf considered a non-revenue sport. Why was that? Why was there never any money going into college golf? Now that these players can represent themselves, I think college golf is about to become The top players are all going to be paid as millionaires in college golf. I really think that's coming. Like the Michael Thornbornson from Stanford, he's gotten some exemptions onto the PGA Tour. He was going back to college because he wants to try to win PGA Tour University and get his be secured his card with that way. But how about you can now play your 7 starts on the PGA Tour fully covered head to toe with sponsorship, and then eat your cake too and be an amateur back at college. I think that to be a college golfer right now and be a top 20 player in college golf, you're about to get paid, Roger.
No doubt about it. I've got a few players right now that we're discussing that. Hey, go back, take your 5th year, get to a Power 5 school that's going to give you an opportunity in the PGA if you will. Get paid for it, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you're absolutely right. I think, again, more money that goes into this, the more that's going to happen. And you can't blame them. At the end of the day, I think this is not a bad thing for college golf. I think it's a good thing. I mean, think about it this way, Ryan. We're now seeing, the U.S. Junior Am on. You got the U.S. Am on TV now. You got the Western Am on TV now, or streaming on Peacock. And you've got another AM event coming up, and I'm going blank on it right now, but I'll think about it in a second. But you've got so many more amateur tournaments coming on. Oh, it's the NB3 National Championship on TV, right? So you think about how many things are happening in that direction. You can't help but think about where the dollar is going to come and support the kids. And if you've got a good if you're a good player, meaning if you're a parent who has a player who is at the top of the game, why wouldn't you try to take advantage of that?
Now, the scary part for me is this could trickle down to 8, 9, 10-year-olds. And that's not meant to be a joke. There was an interview done recently with the PGA Tour. What's the name of their series where he plays a team? The little kids.
Oh, the Junior League.
Junior League.
PGA Junior League, yeah.
Right, which is also televised, by the way.
Yeah, that's right.
So they wanted to do a feature on one of the young guys. ESPN did. They got it all lined up, and they asked him to take his glasses off, sunglasses. He was getting a reflection off the lights. And the father stepped in and said, we're working on an NIL deal with him, with the glasses company. He needs to keep them on. He was 9, Roger. This is not comedy. So the problem with NIL, and you have it in football now, where literally you can make $20 million in college football. I mean, I'm not kidding around. I mean, there's so much money that the NCAA it's lost.
Yeah,
we're not putting this toothpaste back in the tube.
Yeah,
but the problem is we know how junior golf parents can be. You now have parents believing that their 9, 10, and 11-year-old can get paid. This is a very slippery slope, Roger.
Oh, no doubt about it, Ryan. I mean, listen, I just had a parent not even a month ago tell me that it's more important that they are on Instagram promoting product as a brand ambassador than it was to actually go play in tournaments, because he gets paid. And if he plays in tournaments and doesn't do well, it's going to impact, what happens. So.
And Roger, we now welcome in our guest this week on the Hub of Junior Golf podcast. This is Chris Nallen. You know him as a Walker Cupper, certainly one of the top amateurs of the world. University of Arizona, was a University of Arizona assistant coach, and is now an agent in the golf business. So Chris, just a wealth of knowledge able to share to our audience this week. Let's just start with the beginning. How did you get into this great game of golf?
Honestly, my dad. At a young age, probably 2-3 years old, got swinging down in Hilton Head, and kind of really took to other sports. Baseball, tennis were big, and then didn't really, until we moved from New York to New Jersey, didn't really get into junior golf tournaments till probably 13, 14 years old. And that's honestly when I met Roger, probably when I was about 14, 15, up at Sunningdale in New York through my dad's work partner. And, we kind of hit it off, and have had an unbelievable relationship ever since.
Yeah, Chris, it was an unbelievable relationship. You're already really good. You're a really good tennis player, a really good baseball player. How important was it to you growing up, playing other sports, then coming to golf a little bit later? How did that shape your life as a golfer, if you will? Tell us, the audience, a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think it's two different sides of it. I think with baseball, you have the team around you. Tennis, you're kind of, you're playing another opponent, more individual, and then the golf, obviously, super individual. You're not playing another opponent. You're playing the golf course. You don't really have anybody to back you up, and I think the competitiveness of just playing different sports, being athletic, and Roger can attest to this. My golf swing was more on the athletic side. It wasn't as technical as, but I got to be technical. Maybe some of my downfall a little bit, but I being able to work with Roger, and even to this day, I still text him and still kind of send him videos of, hey, I know I'm not playing so much anymore, but how can we fix this? And I think some of those things that I did with baseball and tennis, you can see in my golf swing, very, very right-sided, want to do a lot of things with my right arm. And so there's definitely, I think, good and bad. I think there's a lot more good, though. Sometimes I think I would look at more of the bad, but there is definitely a lot more good. Being competitive, always striving to be better, whether it was baseball, tennis, golf. I played some other sports too, but it's interesting because when I was coaching, I would always actually go more or less from the recruiting side of, hey, let's look at guys that play other sports. Let's look at guys that are going to probably be good team guys, that are going to be kind of the locker room guys, that are going to be fun to hang out with on the road, and easy to be around with. So it's interesting because, you don't look as golf as so much a team sport. Obviously it's not, but in college it is. And so you have to rely on each other, and, you could have a great week and not make it to, yourself, and not make it to the national championship because your team doesn't play well that week. So definitely a lot of good and bad. But the good side, for me, it was the relationships I've built, and the people I've been able to meet through all these different sports has been phenomenal.
Let's talk a little bit about that relation game. You obviously have a wonderful amateur career all the way to the Korn Ferry Tour. You decide to get into coaching. When you got into the coaching side, so you've been a player obviously your whole life. Now your job is to go and analyze younger kids and make a prediction on how good they ultimately could be. What were you looking for, Chris, when you would try to recruit a player?
Yeah, I think when we'd have them on visits, when I first got into it, I was more or less amazed how, and the rule finally changed, but we were having 6th, 7th graders on campus for visits, which is, for me, I was like, what are we going to talk to them about, right? And so a lot of times when we had these kids on campus, their parents were doing a lot of the talking, and you couldn't really pull so much from the kid because they were shy, rightfully so. I mean, what's a 6th, 7th grader coming to a college campus gonna, they're intimidated by 2 coaches that are showing them around. And but I always like to kind of gravitate again towards the guys that played other sports, but also that were asking the questions, that were kind of more engaged, and sometimes too, more on their official visits. Did the parents come with them on their official visits? I remember doing my visit to school. My dad put me on a plane and said, here you go, have fun, So I think that's a big part of it. And I understand that the parents definitely want to know what they're getting when they go to the school. And there's time to do that. But I think more or less the one-on-one time with the kid when we're recruiting them was huge for us, because we really got to know them as a person. How are they going to interact with our team? And it took us a little while. Jim's done a great job there now, the head coach at Arizona. My first year was 2013, and he had been there for a year. And I got to be honest, we were pretty bad the first 3 years. And we finally found our niche in recruiting and got got a good team around us, and we actually got to the number one team in the country for a little bit there, and that fluctuates so much week to week, but found our kind of niche in recruiting, and got the right guys in, and guys that wanted to go out and practice on Saturdays, Sundays on their own, play golf, would call us, say, hey, can you set us up here on the weekend? So if you get those guys in that are doing the work on their own, and like to be around each other, that's where I really think the teams that are great really excel.
Yeah, hey Chris, part of that over the years, I see it changing or shifting a little bit in the college landscape. It seems like you guys did a lot of more recruiting domestically. Now the game has gone more global. I see the team makeup is a little bit different now than what it used to be. What do you think that? Why is that happening? Or in your opinion, why do you think more top Power Five programs are going international versus domestic?
It's interesting because I've been removed 2.5 years now and we had a couple German kids, kid from Finland as well, and I don't know if it's more like they have maybe more systems in place and they're able to. I know that the U.S. is starting, which I think you had a little bit of involvement with Roger with the U.S. national team stuff, and I just spoke with a kid at Arizona, Tiger Christensen, who we recruited that ended up at Oklahoma State for a year, but now is at Arizona, and he was just with his German world team, and they do a lot of the team stuff, a lot of the those kind of federation things, and so maybe. I don't know the exact answer to that, but I think it's more they're getting noticed because of that stuff. These coaches that are heading those specific federations are reaching out to college coaches, and they're coming over, playing in a lot of the big events where you would get picked up as college coaching. And the other side of this too is, and I know we might get into it a little bit, but some of the things now with the NIL and the name, image, likeness stuff, and I think that's probably a big part of it as well.
Yeah. Speaking of, I mean, now that you've kind of progressed through this player that you are, I know you're still a player, but you're doing some representation. How do you think, or will you have, or do you see this having a role in this NIL kind of game for college players? Will you be helping, players, negotiate with college coaches, or college coaches coming to you saying, hey, I want to get this player, what can you do to help me get this player?
Yeah, I think, and I'm learning, there's when I was just getting out of coaching is when this was all starting to get talked about. And I still don't know if they totally have it dialed in. I think it seems like it's changing week to week with the rules. And I've talked to a couple people, and it seems like there's a lot of gray area with some of these things. And the way I'm understanding it is coaches are supposed to not really have any involvement when it comes to NIL talk, right? They can't negotiate on the kid's behalf. And I think that's probably happening though at some point because of the gray areas. But basically an agent could come in and say, hey, I want to build a relationship with you. Let me go out and try and get you some money. Whether it be $5,000, $20,000 with a specific company. And a lot of these universities too have their own fund now as well. So it is as a recruiting tool with these donors, and some of these high-end donors can, donate to an NIL pool, and they have a specific name for it, but then the program can use that money to recruit these kids, technically. And then there is the separate side of it where, a specific company like, Golf Performance Center, let's just say, can go and say, hey, we want to put our logo on this kid and just kind of make him do some social media stuff and sponsor him and give him X amount of dollars for the year. And that, they can't pay for play necessarily, but they could do a lot of things. You could use their post, you could use their, image on a flyer that you're doing, something like that. So those agents try and really kind of build that relationship. So when the kid that they think is going to be successful as a pro, they build that relationship. So when he does get ready to turn pro, look at that company to sign with coming out. And there's no guarantee. That's what's tough for me, because these companies that are, sponsoring these kids, what's in it for them, right? Is there really value to giving a kid, say, $20,000 to put, car dealership on his right sleeve, and he can't do it during college events, so he has
Right.
to do it in top amateur events and stuff like that. And is there, there's no guarantee that when the kid does turn pro that he's gonna, use them again as a sponsorship. So there's definitely a fine line.
But Chris, here's the tricky part. And you were a coach, and now you're on the other side.
Yep.
I mean, to me, it looks like a college coach has been completely stripped now of pretty much any power. And what I mean by that is you will see a kid. We've got a kid that was an All-American at Pepperdine that in the summer transfers to North Carolina because of an NIL deal done by an agent. And the coach has absolutely no control or nothing to do with it. The NCAA, Roger and I were talking about this before you jumped on. I mean, the control has been completely lost. Collegiate athletics are being done by agents. The entire thing is recruiting is being done. And obviously, golf is way down on the list. I mean, you got college football players that are making $10 million. How much power does a coach have when you got a high school senior coming in with $10 million in his pocket already?
We were just talking about it. I was talking about it with somebody, and you got a kid making, say, $2 million, right, on football. Obviously, football, basketball are the big numbers, rightfully so. I get it. And then you're gonna have somebody in the department that's making, say, 70 grand for the year, try and tell that kid what to do. There's no way. There's just there's no chance, right? But exactly, like, it is getting to the point where they're gonna have to do something, because I heard the kid from Ohio, I think it was Ohio State, or one of the quarterbacks that just came out. They had donors waiting to see what his bonus was going to be in the NFL, and they were going to maybe try and offer him more to get him to come back. So I know Lance Ringler just tweeted out something about all the tampering stories that he's hearing from coaches, and it stinks, because you have, let's say, a kid at a D2 school that has a great year, and now these Power 5 schools are coming in and poaching him. Why didn't you recruit him right away if you thought he was good?
Right.
Those kind of things. So it kind of stinks, because the rich are getting richer, and the big programs that have the ability with these donors to, give the money, or, do whatever it is, are going to it's going to be, the same teams over and over, just having power teams.
And there are some colleges now that are completely out of the high school recruiting business, Roger. They are strictly into, I'm going to take the best Division II, Division III player, and I'm going to build my team with guys that have succeeded at college at a lower level that want to come up and play Division I. And I think the coaches are saying, I think that guy is going to be better than any high school senior that I could get to come to my school. So, this is really affecting junior golf. Chris, how low can this go? I mentioned to Roger that we had a 9-year-old that was working on a sunglasses NIL deal. I mean, you're now talking about a parents of a 9, 10, 11-year-old that can see dollar signs. I mean, this is, how parents can, in junior golf, can get a little bit too involved. I mean, this is about to get out of control.
Yeah, that's amazing. I haven't heard that. I'm kind of speechless on that one, but yeah, I mean, the amount of money, right, you're putting in let's say, a 9-year-old, that's crazy, but 17-year-old, do you really think those kids are going to be making the right decisions with that kind of money? It's just, it's crazy. It is out of control a little bit. And I know the NCAA is basically, there was a statement that came out and basically said, no, like, I know states had their own different laws, but they're basically now saying, no, this is the way you have to do it. I don't care what your state says, which, does that really do anything? I don't know. And I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how it can be regulated. It needs to be, because you are getting a lot of the stories and a lot of the tampering gray area stuff. I'm hearing stuff too, like, if you do have an NIL with a kid, they can't technically post from their own account, but they could have somebody like like the agent that's working with them post it. Well, how is anybody going to know who's actually posting that video or posting that picture? They don't. So there's a lot of those kind of things that I think are happening in the background that, again, golf too, it's not as high profile in college as a basketball, football, because those are the money makers. Those are the revenue sports, right? Especially football. So those are the ones that are going to be looked at more. So I think there's probably a lot that can be kind of under the table with golf and, sports like that.
I mean, club manufacturers for 100 years have been giving amateurs balls and equipment. So, golf is was even out ahead of this whole thing. As an agent now, Chris, what is the process for you trying to identify someone that can, a junior or a collegiate player or an amateur player? What is the process? What are you looking for that potentially could help your business and help another company?
Yeah, and I'm new too with all this, and it's been a great learning process for me. Obviously I have the golf side of it. I've been through a lot. I've experienced a lot on that side, and getting now on the other end with the corporate stuff and the sponsorships. And I mean, there's a ton of stuff for me to learn still, but it's been kind of exciting just talking and reconnecting with a lot of people I haven't seen. And when I look, I think, obviously golf's pretty black and white. You're looking at scores, right? And you're looking at, do you really think the kid, when he gets to turn pro, is it somebody that can make it? Does he have the drive? Does he have the work ethic to do it? Or is it just, hey, I'm doing this because my parents are kind of making me, or there's not really that drive there? And you could pick, I think you could pick that up pretty easily. And what helps me, honestly, is having the relationship with a lot of the coaches. And I feel like over my years, I haven't burned any bridges with anybody, and have always been myself, have always been maybe honest to a fault, I guess. But I think that's helped. I think that's been, I think the coaches that are very good coaches know me and say, hey, why don't you, this is a very good player. Why don't you, maybe look at Chris and the company he's with, as an option. Because again, those relationships that I've built and have are huge. And I hopefully that'll kind of, manifest itself into, getting some good guys and being part of their journey as they move on to professional golf.
Yeah, Chris, one of the things that I know we've talked about over the years is players and being identified, and how do you identify it? You just kind of talked about that a little bit, but one of the things that what stood out to me for you was how well you struck the golf ball. Again, back to controlling the golf ball. When you look at that from a player's perspective, do you look at how they control their shots and what they do, how their body language is on the golf course, so that you go, you know what, I see somebody who knows how to control their golf ball under these circumstances? Is that something that you look at as an agent now? I know you did as a player, right? But as an agent now, or is that something that helps identify, I see this person, maybe they're not getting the lowest score yet, but I see them really controlling the golf ball. I see them really controlling themselves out there. What stands out? How do you look at that?
Yeah, I think both those, definitely the demeanor, right? And I could go back to, I was very hard on myself, and now seeing it from this side, whether it be the coaching side or even, being a player manager type guy, whereas when you're playing, you're really in it, and you're really not picking up on some of the stuff that you can see if you're walking around with a guy just watching him play 18 holes. And there's one guy that we, have been able to build a relationship with and have part of our team is Sam Choi, who's playing on the Canadian tour right now. And honestly, I'm pretty hard to impress. And I think he is probably, from the being able to spend a good amount of time with him, like I've been lucky enough to hit balls next to obviously a very good amount of players that are like a Tiger and like a
hang
Rory.
on, Chris. Hang on. I got to tell the story since you mentioned that. Here's the story, Ryan. We're at the U.S. Open at Wayne Foot. I'm going to tell you the story. I got to tell the story. So he just mentioned it. So we're standing there on the range hitting golf balls, and who else is, in front of him other than Tiger Woods, right? Hitting golf balls, and Chris is there hitting. And Chris is like Chris does, hits the golf ball flush every single time, and he's like just absolutely striping it, right? Getting ready to have a great week. And Tiger turns around and says, "Do you ever miss one?" I mean, it was so impressive of the way he goes, the way the ball comes off your club. It's like, I don't think I've heard you miss a shot yet. What's Chris do on the next one?
But I think I had only hit 2 or 3 balls in about a 20-minute span because I think I was just watching him most of the time hit the ball.
But I mean, come on, you had the GOAT turn around and go, man, that's impressive. You're not, and all the time Chris is sitting there going, man, that sucked. Oh man, that was terrible. So it's pretty funny talking about that actually.
Yeah, no, it is. And, obviously that is a great story. And I think there's definitely times when I could have been easier on myself. And I get that now that I'm
just a wee bit
41. Yeah. But when I was, talking about Sam, you watch him, and from any shot he has, you watch the ball. If you're behind him, it comes out of the window that you think it's going to come out of pretty much every time. And also just from like 100 yards and in, if he misses a green, when he gets up to that shot, it doesn't look like he's too concerned. It's just, it looks natural. And it's like, he's going to get up and down from anywhere. Yeah. So it's one of the most complete players that I have seen, probably top 2, top 3 guys where, everything. Yeah.
Hey, I've got a little fun fact there, Chris. So you probably don't know this, but when Sam was at University of New Mexico before he transferred to Pepperdine, so he went through our player development assessment, got an index. He's one of the only ones that had on the ball flight laws. He's got 6 out of the 9. So him controlling his golf ball, he's had one of the highest scores that we've seen. And we said, no offense to University of New Mexico, we said, what are you doing here? Right. I mean, the guy was that impressive, and he was like, well, he wasn't recruited. He didn't really have a junior career necessarily. So, we told him, like, listen, you're destined for some great things because his PDI score was so great. So it's good to hear that you're saying that, confirming some of the things that we saw, almost three years ago now.
Yeah, he's a great kid, big personality, just well-liked across all college, amateur. And I was able to be with him up in Canada. And just watching him, like I said, he knows where his ball's going every time, it seems like. And obviously you're going to have the mishaps here and there. But what was more impressive to me was 100 yards and in. He hit some shots around the greens that he didn't even flinch on it. He made him look so easy. So when you have that, it's hard to, who knows what they're feeling inside. But when you're watching it from the outside, you're like, man, this guy he has control of everything.
Yeah. He was one of the only ones perfect in the short game.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's phenomenal. And so it's pretty neat. And then he went to Pepperdine, and Michael Beard, the coach there, he and I have a very good relationship. And, so it worked out very well. Kind of a last minute deal, but it worked out, and we've had a blast working together.
Awesome. That story though, it is, and I know Chris, you're aware of PDI, but as we go through Rose Zhang, we go through the players at the University of Texas, you guys talk about Sam. I mean, there's no doubt that using the system that is available now for recruiting, the ranking system, it's so incomplete that it is really difficult to assess a junior player, even if you can only watch them play once or twice. And what PDI statistically and continues to do is once we can get this to be a real part of junior golf, just think, Chris, of the additional information and how much that would help a college coach really know what he's getting with a player just based on his PDI score.
No, it is, and it's phenomenal. Roger and I have, talked about it, and obviously I'm not in that area anymore, and up there in Connecticut, and I was close by in New York and Jersey, and I always try and get back. But obviously, I've known Roger since I was 15. I've leaned on him for a lot of different things outside of golf as well. So what he's doing is phenomenal. And there is a lot of, research and a lot of different things that go into the PDI that are so helpful for these kids. And sometimes it's hard because you have kids and parents like, we don't need that, right? And I'm sure Roger gets that all the time. And it's convincing these guys that, hey, this is what, at a very, I guess, I don't know if it's a bigger level or smaller level, but a lot of the world-class guys that are playing well every week, they're doing this kind of stuff. And it's maybe a little different, but now that it's really pinpointed with the PDI stuff, it makes it a lot easier for, hey, all right, these are the things I need to do. And if I continue on these courses, I'm going to have great success.
Well, there's no doubt about it, Chris, and certainly you've had success now in three really unique phases, from a great amateur to professional career to a coach, and now as an agent. We know you got a doctor's appointment, so all good. Yeah, we thank you for coming on the Hub of Junior Golf Podcast. Certainly, giving some information from all those phases of your life, and Roger, I know Chris has meant a lot to you throughout really since you met him. So this has been a special relationship, and I'm sure you're really proud of what Chris has been able to accomplish.
No doubt, man. Love you, and be good, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, well, maybe we can do a sponsorship with Sammy.
Yeah, I'd love to. Let's do it.
Always working. Chris Nallen. Thank you.
We're
appreciate it.
Love you,
Roger,
man.
I think it's interesting on a lot of different levels, as we heard Chris talk about those different phases of his career. You're not going to find many people that played at that level, then coached, and now are going into the world that we're all trying to figure out in real time. So a great guest. What was the biggest takeaway for you?
Well, I think when he was talking a lot about just the identification of the player, right? I mean, and what he's looking for when he was a coach, looking for the kid who carried himself well, who, knew how to bounce back and kind of, was in control, right? Emotionally and also physically with his golf game. I think that's really important for parents to understand that you're not going to have your best golf every single day. But you need to learn how to manage those things. So you limit the damage, but you also improve your resilience, right? And I think one of the things I'll tell you that Chris didn't talk about. I mean, this kid had a really, really tough childhood coming up. He lost his mom early in a car accident. The resilience that this kid, this man has is phenomenal to overcome the odds, to be successful, and break so many records out there. One still stands as a scoring record on the Korn Ferry tour, right? So it's pretty impressive. And I think that's what I think people need to understand. Golf is a hard game. It takes a lot of resilience. It takes a lot of other things that go into it to be really successful. So that's a big part of what I took out of it.
And the last couple of things for you. Certainly, we all understand that there is a giant void in junior golf as far as information for a college coach. The Junior Golf Hub serves two of those voids. The first is getting your son or daughter out there and getting their scores available to coaches, identifying schools that are probably a good fit scoring wise. I get everyone wants to go to Stanford, but there's only a few, 5 spots on a team. So it's, that might not be the most realistic. It's good to have as a goal, but when you get to the point where it really is time to contact coaches and start the recruiting process. And I always say this, it's on the players. It's in golf. It's not really on the college coaches. It's on the player to make that first contact and develop a relationship. identifying the right kind of school, the right fit school, both academically and golf wise. Junior Hub's got you covered. And then the void that is, how good can the player ultimately be? PDI is stepping in as more and more college coaches become aware of it, as more players become aware of it. We realize that when that day comes, when PDI is a household name, your PDI score is going to be as important as your handicap index, Roger.
No doubt. Thanks for that lead in, Ryan. Yeah, I mean, you know, I think if people realize what the tool was there for, we would definitely, I mean, we've got great traction. We've got over 10,000 profiles on there, people using it, coaches finding players. I mean, I just had a coach recently contact me, you know, saying, hey, thank you, man. This has made my job so much easier to find players in a way that they know that they're going to come to them and play and you know, make an impact immediately, right? So being able to get you know, use there is really important. So turning on to the juniorgolfhub.com, going searching, looking at tournaments, being able to make a schedule there is so important for parents and players, and sharing that in a way with the college coaches just makes it so much easier for them to connect with you. So I think that's so important that they can use that tool. And as you were talking about, you know, the player development assessment and the index, we certainly believe, and I know I'm a little biased here, but certainly believe that this has a place in golf, you know, going forward, where, you know, again, back to, you only get a score or you only get a ranking, but you really don't know the golf athlete. What are they really doing? What are the potentials? So, you know, as Chris just talked about with Sam Choi, I mean, we saw that 3 years ago. We knew Sam Choi was going to be something special, and he's going to be something special. I mean, the guy was pretty impressive, both physically and golf skill wise. So if you really want to know where you are, what you need to do, what tournaments play in, you know, reach out, you know, to myself, Roger at the Golf Performance Center, or Danny at the Golf Performance Center. Set up your assessment, go through your player development assessment, get your index. It's going to help. It's going to make an impact going forward for you.
Well, no doubt, Roger. We can't talk about it enough. It certainly has changed the game of junior golf for the better, and we encourage everyone to start to identify and familiarize yourself with the Junior Golf Hub and all that is there for you. It is a tool to help you, a roadmap, if you will, to get to the destination ultimately that your son or daughter is trying to get to. So juniorgolfhub.com, simply start to familiarize yourself and get used to using this tool, because it is there to help you. Chris Nallen, we thank you for being a wonderful guest today. A lot of information, a lot of great stories. Love the Tiger story. That's a good one, Roger. And I know he's been an important part of your life. So once again, we continue to week in, week out, bring you some of the best names in the game that can provide information that can help you navigate this game of junior golf. We know it can be overwhelming at times, especially if you're, you know, your son or daughter just kind of putting their first toe in the water of junior golf. So we're glad to be here each and every week. This has been the Hub of Junior Golf Podcast. We'll see you back here next week.